All right, let's jump right in. We are going to explore a really fascinating and honestly kinda unsettling topic, the mathematics of a pseudo-democratic society. And I know, math and politics sounds like a strange mix, but you gotta stick with me on this, because we're about to see how numbers and formulas can be pulling the strings behind the scenes. You ever get that feeling? That nagging sense that no matter how you vote or who you support, the outcome just feels set in stone? It's this weird feeling that maybe the game is rigged before we even show up to play. Well, what if that's not just a feeling? What if it's actually baked into the system? Turns out, the answer might not be where we usually look, not in the headlines or the political debates, but hidden in plain sight, inside the cold, hard logic of mathematics. So, for the next few minutes, think of us as detectives. We're going to use math as our special lens, our secret decoder ring, to look right past all the noise and see the real machinery working underneath it all. Okay, first things first, we need to be clear on what we're talking about, a pseudo-democracy. This is a system that looks totally legit on the outside, right? It's got elections, politicians, all the stuff you'd expect. But behind that curtain, the power is actually locked down. And it's that exact disconnect, the gap between how it looks and how it really works, that we can actually model with math. To crack this open, we've got a couple of key tools in our toolkit. First up is game theory. Don't let the name scare you. It's just a way to analyze the strategic moves everyone makes, from voters to the people in power. And second, we've got network analysis, which lets us literally draw a map of how information and influence spread through society. Let's get our hands dirty with our first case study. And it is a big one. Rigging votes. But I'm not talking about the old school stuffing of ballot boxes. Nope. This is way more elegant, and it's all about how simple geometry can be used to engineer power. So take a look at this. On the left, you see what you'd expect. Simple, clean voting districts. Makes sense, right? But then you look at the right. These are what some people call mathematically optimized districts. See how they snake around and interlock in these bizarre shapes? That is not an accident. That is a design. And here's the punchline. This is what that design gets you. Party A gets 60% of the vote. I mean, that's a landslide. They should be running the show. But because of those weirdly shaped districts, they only end up with 25% of the seats. Meanwhile, Party B, who lost the popular vote, gets 75% of the power. It's a perfect example of how you can win by losing, all thanks to some very clever and very undemocratic math. But playing with maps is just one piece of the puzzle. Let's look at our second case study, information control. Because what you're allowed to know and what you hear over and over, well, that's a huge part of the formula for staying in power. And this is where that second tool, network analysis, is so powerful. You can map out the entire media landscape like a giant spider's web. It shows you who the big central hubs are, the ones really driving the conversation. You can see how some ideas get amplified and spread like wildfire, while others just disappear. You can literally put a number on how echo chambers are built. This chart just makes it crystal clear. You might feel like you're hearing from tons of different places, but the math shows a different story. In this model, just 3 sources control 90% of the information flowing to the public. That's not really a diverse marketplace of ideas, is it? It's basically an information monopoly, and we can measure its strength. So why does all this matter? I mean, who cares about the abstract models? Well, this isn't just a fun math problem. Understanding these patterns is about taking that abstract idea and turning it into a real-world awareness of the invisible systems that are shaping our lives every single day. It all leads you to this really powerful, maybe even kind of chilling thought. The system isn't broken. It was built that way, with mathematics. The problems we see might not be bugs in the system. They might actually be the features, all carefully calculated. But that idea shouldn't make us feel hopeless. It should do the opposite. It should give us clarity. Because if you can understand how a system is built, if you can see the blueprint, that is the absolute first step toward figuring out how to change it or demand something better. So let's wrap this up. The big takeaway is that democracy can sometimes be more of an illusion than we'd like to think. But math is this incredible tool we can use to see the hidden structure underneath it all. We now know that things like voting and the news we see can be manipulated using formulas. And the most important thing? Just getting your head around these models, that is the real first step to becoming an empowered citizen. And so, I'll leave you with this final question to chew on. If a democracy can be engineered like a formula to control people, can it also be solved? Now that's something to think about.